That's Nick.
And that's Joseph, and today we're here to talk about Uncorked, which debuted on Netflix March 27, 2020. It is the directorial debut of Prentice Penny, who is perhaps better known as a producer of Issa Rae's Insecure. He also directed a couple episodes of that. It was supposed to premiere at the 2020 South by Southwest Film Festival, which of course was canceled thanks to COVID-19.
This film was not even on my radar until I saw Issa Rae had posted about it on Instagram. I'm so glad she did because I very much enjoyed this film.
Yeah,
it was a lovely surprise.
Lovely surprise. It's good.
So many good things. Where do I start? Prentice Penny.
Prentice Penny, the director.
And the star.
The star is Mamoudou Athie.
We're not going to mess that up.
I had to listen to several videos to learn how to pronounce his last name.
Mamoudou Athie.
I think that's how you say it. It's apparently a thing. He starred on The Get Down on Netflix, and we just saw him recently in Underwater opposite Kristen Stewart.
That's right. I really enjoyed him. Yeah. I enjoyed everyone in this film.
Yes, yeah.
I feel like we just go down the line of the cast list. But let's describe the story. So the main character's name is Elijah. So Elijah is a young man who works for his family in their barbecue restaurant. In Memphis. He also has a love for wine. And so he works in like a liquor store / wine shop where he dreams of perhaps one day becoming a master sommelier. Somalian, whatever.
I think
my mispronunciation of it is a running joke within the film. Yeah. So, but I'm not doing this on purpose. Sommelier.
Which is probably, there's a joke that Courtney Vance makes about his African wine thing, and it must be because he thought it sounded like...
It does sound like
It just clicked that it sounded like Somalia.
There's a joke where they ask him, that African wine thing. Yeah. But his father, played by Courtney B. Vance, is more interested in him taking over the family business. And he's hesitant, the father, because Elijah has sort of had numerous endeavors he attempted that he gave up on. So there's tension with them. He ultimately decides to go to school, which has a nice start. And then he needs to take a trip to France to continue his studies, which becomes problematic because he needs money, which he doesn't have. But there's a very lovely scene where the family raises money for him to go. He does that. There are some issues there. I don't want to spoil it just yet. I will eventually. He ends up returning home. I won't spoil it yet.
Okay, I guess let's finish talking about what we really liked about it.
Yeah, because there's so much to enjoy.
Yeah. The
soundtrack.
Oh yeah, the soundtrack. Okay, so
the soundtrack is amazing.
So Hit Boy was the producer on the soundtrack, but there's a lot of, like it opens with Yo Gotti's Juice, which you said that you had completely different feelings about how the film starts because you were assuming it was going to be something else based on the soundtrack.
The music in this film is so well done and curated, and I think it's such a beautiful contrast to the story.
But it's much like the film's theme of pairing the right wine.
Yeah.
I think is how that plays.
Because the opening scene with the music, and then there's like sort of these shots of like this white woman. Well, it's like people like in a vineyard and a white woman like mixing additives to make like ferment wine, contrasted with like them in the barbecue shop cutting up ribs, and it works so well. And then the first dialogue we hear is a young woman and her friend, who ends up being a girlfriend to Elijah, walking into his liquor store and being kind of ratchet and loud. But then it turns right around so fast because he has a lovely exchange with the young woman, describing different wines and relating them to rappers, which I just thought was like such great dialogue, such a great start. But yes, the music's excellent. The casting, I already think Niecy Nash is funny.
Yeah, she is.
But I think the direction is so good because she can sometimes be a little over the top. In a good way. And I just think her characterization in particular was so beautiful. She plays Elijah's mom, who's sick with cancer, Sylvia. And her humor is sort of sprinkled throughout. It's very subtle, but very effective.
It leans into comedy, but it doesn't ever depend on it.
No. Some supporting cast members I also enjoyed were the two gentlemen who Elijah goes to sommelier school with. The one guy from Orange is the New Black.
Matt McGorry.
And then the other guy.
Gil Ozeri. He's a writer on several things, but Big Mouth.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So the two of them, they're both white guys. Such a nice compliment between the three of them. And there's some nice humorous moments that I think work really well. But overall, I think it's the storytelling that is so good.
Because it's a simple narrative formula. It's a father-son, kind of family dysfunction film, and then them having to come together.
Yeah.
But it's
the story's very basic.
But eloquently told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my overall thought about this film is this is like the future of Black filmmaking to me. I think Tyler Perry in the early 2000s capitalized on the fact that, film wasn't really directed towards a certain audience, right? So sort of like adult contemporary type people, older Black people. And I think this type of filmmaking, Uncorked, is what the next generation needs. Just smart storytelling that feels authentic, relatable. I really, really liked that race was not at the forefront of the story.
And in fact, when it is brought up in a bit of dialogue, as we were talking right after, it's almost in the form of an excuse. It's an excuse for him to estrange himself and distance himself from his dreams, per se, because... It
was just so refreshing to see like a young Black man who's intelligent, who's hardworking, who's driven, but as most young people are,
insecure.
Yeah, and doesn't always follow through, which is normal.
And discovering what it is that really drives you.
And then seeing him do something that we may not normally associate with young Black men, but have it be so organic, like. Watching it, I don't think anyone, like in the audience, myself, or in the film, like question, like, that he doesn't belong there.
Right.
Right? And I think that is so powerful and meaningful, and for younger people to see characters like this and be inspired to do things that are outside of the box, but not feeling like you can't also be true to who you are.
Right.
So to now start to spoil the film, I think where it really also works well is, even though the basic plotline is very familiar, it isn't predictable.
No.
Because when Elijah goes off to Paris after his mom helped raise the money for him, he struggles because his friend, his study buddy,
Harvard,
who agreed to split the cost, ends up having to leave suddenly. So now he's in a financial bind. Elijah is. And he's not aware that his mom has had a relapse of cancer. It's metastasized. She's not in good shape. She ends up dying.
Because she doesn't want him to know.
Because she doesn't want him to know. She wants him to enjoy his time there. I just felt like every scene with her was so moving and refreshing. But he ends up returning home because his mom has passed. And things are hard. He's not doing well in school. And then there's a shift in his mindset of maybe he should devote more time to the family business and to support his dad. So they sort of reconnect in a lovely way.
Yeah.
And then his dad has sort of a 180 and decides that he wants to help his son with these classes to achieve his goal of being a sommelier. But ultimately it doesn't work out because he goes to take the test and he fails. So that's, sort of another dive that took me somewhere.
But it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world, no. But the end of the film is him. So after he goes back home and they open up their second restaurant and it seems like everything's going well, Elijah decides that he's going to quit and try to get this title,
become a master
sommelier. And that's how the film ends. Just a beautiful story, beautiful characterizations, great filmmaking. It does feel like Insecure, kind of. So I can see
his attraction to the material, but not so much. And I don't think it's a template.
It's not a template, but I think the vibe is similar. I feel like anyone who appreciates Insecure would appreciate Uncorked.
But I mean, again, we're still
and seeing like smart young black people
that aren't defined by trauma. That there's still not a lot of representations of that.
No.
It was lensed by cinematographer Elliot Davis, who has a lot of credits that I thought were notable, but he did Out of Sight by Soderbergh, and this Lawn Dogs in the late 90s with Kathleen Quinlan, this indie film. But anyway, the look of the film I liked as well.
Yeah. Anything else?
No.
So what would you give it?
3.5 out of 5.
I would also give it 3.5 out of 5. All right, bye.
Bye.